This is TechCrunch. Whether you're a baseball fan or not, there is a lot to love about this new website called Ribbie. It's a vibe-coded website that turns real-time Major League Baseball data into 8-bit broadcasts with arcade-style animated pixel art. Ribbie creator Eric Brownrouth told TechCrunch, "I love how much data is available to baseball fans, but, when I try to follow a game with ESPN Gamecast, I find it kind of boring." Still, the idea for Ribbie did not materialize until Brownrouth generated a pixel art image of Phillies slugger Kyle Schwarber to use as his fantasy baseball team's logo. He said, "I love the aesthetic," and started thinking about ways I might be able to apply it to a data or visualization tool. A quick Google search revealed the MLB Public Stats API, and I realized I could theoretically recreate an entire baseball game in the same pixel format. So, like many other tech workers in San Francisco, Brownrouth has now spent many nights experimenting with Claude Code. He stands out, though, because his tinkering yielded something that's delightful. He said, "I used Claude Code and Codex extensively to turn a project that would have easily taken months into something I could build and launch in a few weekends. I used Codex to build the image and sprite generation workflow, and Claude Code helped with the web app development. I've never built a video game before, so that was a new one for me." Visiting Ribbie, which is an onomatopoeia of the baseball stat RBI, which stands for runs batted in, transports you to a pixel art living room that shows which MLB games are being played, and you can select one to watch with Ribbie. You can choose to zoom in on the screen and cut out the living room graphics if you want something more practical. On mainstream play-by-play apps like ESPN's Gamecast and MLB's Own Game Day, the interface is pretty basic, clearly displaying information without frills. Ribbie prioritizes aesthetics instead, with unique pixel art representations of every stadium and player. But it's still simple enough to see the score of the game as well as who's pitching, hitting, or on base. Because the data for all of these visualizations comes from the MLB's API, you can find most of the information you'd be used to seeing on other apps, but it makes for a more descriptive play-by-play. Brownrouth recently added support for fantasy baseball, which allows people to add their rosters and track which players are currently active in their respective games. Brownrouth said, "I just really love the aesthetic of the miniature pixel art stadiums. There's something so satisfying about it that's hard to put a finger on. I think it's one of the reasons people are obsessed with games like Stardew Valley. It's an entire pixel world in the palm of your hand." Passion projects like Ribbie feel refreshing because they're not trying to extract anything from us, something rare at a time when we're so inured to being tracked everywhere online. But can projects like Ribbie last? Is it inevitable that the MLB's lawyers will come after Ribbie because the mammoth sports organization feels threatened by a pixelized sprite of Shohei Ohtani? These are real risks, but Brownrouth thinks he's got his bases covered. Pun definitely intended. He referenced a legal case from 2007 in which the court ruled that baseball stats are facts and therefore are not copyrightable. This allows fantasy baseball products to exist without the MLB's permission. Brownrouth said, the API is the same one that powers fantasy baseball websites, third-party stats sites, live game threads on Reddit. So it's historically been used for all types of official and fan-created projects. Ultimately, the project is completely free and non-commercial, and I try to make it very clear on the website that Ribbie is an unaffiliated fan project. It's a love letter to baseball, not something trying to compete with MLB.tv. Though Brownrouth is pretty busy as the co-founder of AI SaaS platform Frigade, he's still finding time to build Ribbie for the love of the game. He said, "I'm adding sound effects and fuller animations to make it a little easier to passively follow along with while it's on in the background. My neighbors must think I'm crazy because last night I was in my bedroom doing 100 takes of ball, strike, out on my iPhone to record for the Ribbie audio track." Last Friday, Claude Code creator Boris Cherny made an appearance at Meta's at-scale conference, and surprisingly, the first question from the audience was about loops. The questioner asked, "Are loops the next hype cycle, or are they for real?" Cherny's answer was an emphatic, "Yes, they're for real." 2 years ago, we wrote source code by hand, he said. We started to transition so agents write the code, and now we're transitioning to the point where agents are prompting agents that then write the code. As big as the step from source code to agents was, loops are just as important and as big a step. Later in the talk, Cherny got specific about the loops he keeps running in his own work. One agent is continually looking for ways to improve the code architecture, while another looks for duplicated abstractions that can be unified. They submit pull requests like any other coder, and since the code is constantly changing, they never stop running. It's a powerful idea, particularly with a figure as significant as Cherny behind it. With the shift to agentic AI, the focus for most users has been managing their agents as well as possible. Establish clear goals, check in on discrete units of progress, and don't let them stray too far beyond the prompt. The loop takes it a step further by authorizing a swarm of agents to work continuously in the background, endlessly. It's a lot of trust to place in AI, but with models getting better fast, it could be the next step in getting AI to handle real work. The first thing to recognize is that this is not entirely new. Recursive loops, functions that call themselves in order to repeat an action, along with a condition that stops the loop, are a mainstay of intro computer science courses. These loops are following a non-deterministic logic. That is, it's a sub-agent that chooses when to stop the loop instead of a clear condition. But the same basic approach is at work. As soon as programmers started using AI to complete tasks, some version of the recursive loop, with AI overseeing AI, was bound to come up. Unlike classic computing, agentic loops can be maddeningly simple. One of the most popular tricks is the Ralph loop, named for Ralph Wiggum, which basically sums up all the work that a model has done and asks if it's accomplished its goal. It's a way of dealing with AI models getting lost as they run for too long, essentially bouncing the model back and forth until the task is complete. Another way to think of loops is as part of the general push for more test time compute. As OpenAI researcher Noam Brown observed earlier this month, contemporary models can solve nearly any problem if you throw enough compute at them. Now, that means one way to ensure a problem gets solved is to just keep throwing compute at it until it's finished. That's particularly true for hill climbing problems like improving a code base, where the model can just keep making incremental improvements until it reaches a given threshold. Or, as in Cherny's example, it can just keep making incremental improvements for as long as there's compute to spend on it. Now, if that sounds expensive, it should. Like agentic AI before it, AI loops burn through tokens a lot faster than simple Q&A chatbots. And because the point is to keep the loop running all the time, well, there's no ceiling to how much you can spend. That's fine for Anthropic, which is ultimately in the token selling business, but for everyone else, it may be a pricey way to work. Still, depending on the problem the agentic loop is trying to solve and the right setup that allows for oversight of token spend, drift, and other classic AI issues, the benefits could be staggering enough to outweigh the costs. That's all for now. For the latest tech news, go to TechCrunch.com.